Well, there are indications the Nigerian government might negotiate with the terrorists that's claimed credit for kidnapping almost 300 schoolgirls a month ago. U.S. intelligence experts are searching this video released by Boko Haram yesterday, looking for clues about where the girls might be. The video appears to show the girls who have been taken hostage, only some of them, though, and some of them were actually forced to speak on camera, condemning the Christian faith and speaking about the Muslim religion. We're not showing that footage because it appears to be obtained in a hostage situation. The White House revealed yesterday the U.S. is sending Nigeria 5 State Department officials with communication security and medical expertise. The Defense Department is sending 10 advisors and another 7 advisors from U.S. AFRICOM. The FBI has sent 4 kidnapping experts. There's also the help from social media, attracting international attention over the past 2 weeks. But my next guest has been sounding the alarm about Boko Haram for years. Senator Chris Coons described Boko Haram as a serious and even growing threat back in 2012. Senator's office put together this chart showing how Boko Haram attacks had quadrupled from 2010 to 2011. In early 2012, Boko Haram took credit for a series of bomb attacks on Christian churches. The Brookings Institute reports Boko Haram burned down or destroyed 50 schools and killed at least 24 teachers in recent years. Senator Coons blames Northeast Nigeria's lower literacy rates on the terror group. Now that Boko Haram is taking credit for this mass kidnapping getting international attention, Senator Coons has scheduled a hearing on this issue. On Friday, he tweeted this, quote, "We need to make sure that our offers of assistance are not only welcomed, but actually fully utilized." The question now is, how can the U.S. government follow through? I'm joined now by Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. Senator, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Chuck. Good to be with you.
Look, you, Russ Feingold, who actually was in the Senate, he got voted out right before you came in, also was a guy that has been sounded the Boko Haram alarm as well. And I guess I'm curious, why do you think the State Department, they seem to be the lone group that didn't want to put Boko Haram on the terrorist list when every other group, the intelligence community, you and among others in the United States Senate were calling for this? Boy, is this turning out to be a big mistake?
Well, Chuck, I think it's important that all of us in the United States, policy leaders, business leaders, community leaders, elected officials, be better informed about and pay more attention to the rising threat of jihadist activity in Africa. I try to spread a positive message about Africa, about the economic and development opportunities there, but we shouldn't take our eye off the ball in terms of the very real challenges of jihadist groups like Boko Haram. We could quibble over exactly why a decision was made 2 years ago to designate 3 of Boko Haram's leaders individually as terrorists rather than the group. At the end of the day, what I think we need to do is to provide every possible assistance to Nigeria so that we waste not one more day before these girls are safely returned to their families.
Now, Nigeria has a history of negotiating with Boko Haram. They have given them prisoners before. They've paid them money in kidnappings. Is this a classic case of what happens when you negotiate with terrorists, that they essentially continue to escalate, escalate, and escalate?
Well, typically negotiating with terrorists, as you referenced, Chuck, is not the right way to go. Nigeria faced a long and brutal internal resistance movement in the Delta region, and they, for many years, fought an insurgency in the Delta that they ultimately negotiated to a successful resolution. But arguably, that insurgency was bloodier and longer than it needed to be because the government paid ransom and negotiated. I think the same thing is playing out here in the Northeast. One thing I do want to be careful about, though, is to make it clear that we do have, I think, legitimate concerns about ensuring that the military response to Boko Haram is not heavy-handed, doesn't violate basic human rights. Yeah. There is a difficult balance here, Chuck, between respecting Nigerian sovereignty and respecting their ability to make their own strategic decisions, while also insisting on a vigorous search for these girls and respect for basic human rights.
Well, it's funny you bring this up because this seems that that was the next question I was going to go to, which is Nigeria's responses to Boko Haram have either been, to use a poor analogy here, too hot or too cold. They don't seem to strike the right balance. When they go after Boko Haram, if they, you know, the stories I've heard is if they hear a rumor that Boko Haram's in a village, they burn the entire village. How do you prevent Nigeria's government from overreacting?
Well, the United States, Chuck, has a number of years of experience now of fighting insurgencies in Iraq and Afghanistan. We and our allies have a lot of painful lessons learned about how to work successfully with the local population, how to invest in both economic development and in political inclusion at the same time that you're fighting back on a militant insurgency. The hearing that I chaired 2 years ago focused on urging the Nigerian government to reach out to and include traditional communities in the north that have been excluded, that haven't seen the benefits of health care, of literacy, of economic and political opportunity. And so when that reconciliation work, development work isn't done, then a heavy-handed military response is at real risk of simply inflaming the insurgency. And I think over the last 2 years, that may largely be what's happened.
All right, what's the next immediate step the United States government should do?
Well, I'm chairing a hearing this Thursday morning at 10 o'clock of the African Affairs Subcommittee to hear witnesses explain what's being done and to explore what can and should be done. I think we need to provide all the assistance we can in terms of ISR, in terms of overflights and surveillance and intelligence, helping the Nigerian military to appropriately track down and recover, to return safely to their families, the more than 230 schoolgirls, but also to strategically help them refocus on their long-term campaign against Boko Haram. Chuck, we also need to engage Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, countries that are immediately adjacent to this area. This is a very remote area of Nigeria, and there are 3 other countries that have also been affected by Boko Haram, which frequently slips across these borders and is also causing problems in neighboring countries.
I was just going to say what you described, frankly, is that ungoverned region. It almost sounds like the same stories you hear about the ungoverned region that between Afghanistan and Pakistan that, of course, served as a terrorist haven there. Anyway, Senator Chris Coons, we'll be looking forward to your hearing, watching it very closely. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Trivia time. Georgia had 2 Democratic senators for 108 consecutive years, 1873 to January of 1981. Congratulations to today's winner, Greg Scanlon. We'll be right back.